Yes, ready. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Erev Shabbat Kodesh, Perashat Tetzaveh, Shabbat Zachor, Makam Siga. Today's class graciously sponsored by Michael Gindi of Atlanta, Georgia. Le'ilui Nishmat, his father, Yehuda ben Ezra HaKohen, that today is the day of his yortzeit. Additionally, by Yaakov Cohen, Le'ilui Nishmat, Mr. Mo Kishk, Moshe ben Bahia Kohen. Additionally, today's breakfast and class graciously sponsored by Mr. Itzik Ginsburg from Toronto, Canada, in honor of his birthday and in honor of his son's recent wedding. May the family experience semachot and may the neshamot have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. So we'll warm up for a few seconds, literally, before we actually go to discuss the topic of Shabbat Perashat Zachor. So here the Rabbi Chaim Palachi, and this problem apparently was already over 200 years ago, about the prohibition of men dressing up like ladies and ladies dressing up like men. Now, today is a very popular topic. We just heard yesterday that Canada is giving a $75,000 allowance to change the way you were born.
Oh my God.
This is the time of Mashiach, that's all. I said this to wake you up.
Wow.
So look at the Rabbi Chaim Palachi. 200 years ago, he already wrote about these things, that in Turkey, they will tell the people, make sure that although Purim is fun and happy and joyous and mass and dressing up, it says it's not so pashut. The Lacha actually says, if you're asked a question, if you're allowed to pray with a costume, or you have to remove your costume. So definitely, if you wear like an animal costume, you should remove the head at least. Number one, true. Number two, the Lacha writes that if you are not comfortable of meeting a government official or someone important with that costume, you're not allowed to pray with that costume. And I understand that Purim is fun and people do, but in some communities, and I read this in one of the bulletins, anyone over the age of 16 cannot dress up for Purim, for security reasons. Interesting. And in some shuls today, they are asking you to register yourself to have priority access to the synagogue during Purim. This is what's happening out there in the world. Let's go back 200 years ago. And it says not only that this prohibition applies on Purim, but even if you're going to go to a wedding and you want to dress up to make happy, to make the Hatan and Kala laugh, rather, if it's going to be to do something that is spiritually problematic, it's also forbidden. Also, the Halacha writes, Asur lilmod masechet shikorim. You're not allowed to learn the Mishnah called shikorim. Now, what Mishnah is shikorim? So basically, what he's trying to say is that even though in Purim it's a mitzvah to drink, but the mitzvah of Purim is to drink more than the usual amount, and that's providing that will not affect the person due to a medical matter, medical health, etc. Or you're going to drive afterwards. Always in Purim, we tell people, don't drink and drive. Hatzalah nationwide makes a mega campaign on this topic because unfortunately, one of the busiest days of the year for Hatzalah, besides Yom Kippur, number one on the list, the day of Purim. Sure, because people drink out of control. I believe that drinking is permissible. No, the halacha is clearly, you're not allowed to drink to become to the point that you're going to be able to pray. That's the reason why mincha, if Saudah Purim is done after midday, it needs to be done after you pray mincha. Because Arvi, you may go take a nap and you can do Arvi throughout the entire night. But mincha, you miss the boat. If you have the Saudah and you drink a lot and you go to sleep, let's say that you do the Saudah at home, So there's no issue of driving whatsoever. And you're going to go to sleep, and you're going to miss mincha. Defeats the whole purpose. So if you do the Seudah of Purim during the day, early, before noontime, it's one story. But if you do the Seudah any moment after 1 o'clock, mincha is mandatory prayer before you actually do the Seudah. And that's what Rabbi Yosef says, even though it is permissible to drink, but don't let the drink control you, especially in the holy day of Purim, for the obviously given reasons that drinking it's very not beneficial to the person. Now, the next topic that we'll discuss is about Perashat Zachor. For the past 2 days, we have discovered, I should say not discover, but we learned together many fascinating insights about the meaning, the source of Zachor, the message of Zachor, the challenges of Zachor. But yesterday we learned the antidotes against Amalek. So everybody knows this. So today we are going to discuss why Amalek sometimes becomes activated against the Jewish people. We'll discuss that there are 2 levels of Amalek. One is the enemy nations who seek the destruction of the Jewish people. That is a student of Amalek. But then there is the personal Amalek, the person who gives every reason on the book why not to do something good now. That's why the ayin of Amalek is achshav. You want to go against Amalek, you got to do it now. And the ayin of Amalek is achshav lo, not now. You see the difference? They both say the same. In Portuguese, it's very easy to understand this. You go to a store in America or in Argentina, Mexico, etc., South American, Spanish countries, you ask, do you have milk? I don't have. That's easy, no tengo. In Portuguese, is the opposite. For certain lady, do you have milk? Tenho. Tenho. I have not. Instead of saying I don't have, they always say the positive and then the negative. Say, tenho. Tenho. I have not. When you hear the first word, you say, oh, you have?
Yeah.
So he says, no, I don't have.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the ayin of Amalek. The good antidote against Amalek is achshav, now. Do it now. Don't delay it. Don't procrastinate. But the opposite ayin of Amalek is achshav lo, not now. So we discussed that yesterday, and he's already sent the class. So comes the Rabbi Yosef, and it says as follows. It says one of the main concepts of uprooting Amalek that has been haunting the Jewish people since the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, and the Jewish people are in Galut, and God is in Galut, the way the Zohar Kadosh writes, Shekhinah begaluta. But now he's going to say, God also is in exile. Okay, so it says the following. The Zohar Kadosh writes, and it says, what gives the power to the enemies of the Jewish people to attack the Jewish people? In other words, if there is an attack, it means that there is a breach of security. Because if the security will be fine, the terrorism will not be activated. So the fact that it's active, it means that there is something going on. A physical breach, let's say. Let's talk about the borders. Sometimes illegal immigrants infiltrate, or in Israel, Arabs or Palestinians, beyond certain geographical point, they infiltrate and they go and they do whatever they do. So that's the breach in security. So the Zohar Kadosh says, what is the breach of security in the Jewish people? So I'm going to read it to you. And it says, the lack of supporting of Torah learning. Why? It's a pasuk in the Torah. Hakol kol Yaakov ve'yadayim yedei Esav. It's a known pasuk. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, and violence is the hands of Esav. But if you look at the way the Torah writes, Hakol, it's written in two different ways. One word without Vav, one word with Vav. Kol with Vav means voice, but Kol without Vav, it's called Kal, light. So the Torah is telling us, Hakal Kol Yaakov, if the voice of Torah is weak, Yadayim Yadei Esav. Esav has the power to attack the Jewish people. That's number one, what the Zohar Kadosh says. And the less learning of Torah, the more the Torah gets forgotten. But it says, the Zohar Kadosh, that through the increase of Torah learning, Metish kocho shel Esav ve'Amalek besar shelahem samach mem. It weakens the power of Esav, his grandson of Amalek, and the ministering angel known as Samach Mem. Who is Samach Mem? There are a few answers. Samach Mem is the usual nickname without saying the full word, because it's not something nice to say. Samach Mem means Sam Mavet, the poison of death. That's the Malach, God forbid, who creates trouble for the Jewish people at many different levels, and part of his job description is to take the neshama of a Jew when they have to leave the world. That's called the Malach Samach Mem. Numerical value 100. That's why the Sephardic world, when we give Aliyah to the Sefer, what do we give? 101. We don't give 100, because 100 is a very unfortunate number based on the Kabbalah, because represents the numerical value of the word Samach Mem. Also Rashi Tevot, social media.
Is Ashkenazi have the same rule?
Some of them no. Social media. What do you think?
Even worse.
The worst.
Even worse.
Okay? Now what's social media? Social media is one of the easiest ways to waste time, and poison, and lack of modesty, and many inappropriate matters. And Baruch Hashem, I'm not a follower, I'm not a fan, thank God, but people tell me things and people share with me things. That's how I know a lot of things. So this is something that we need to be honest with ourselves, that is affecting people's lives.
There we go. Social media.
No, it's not social media. That's an alarm clock that his wife is calling him. Don't forget to buy the chali and the eggs for Shabbat. That's another one. That's an iPhone, that's maybe a Samsung, I don't know. But we'll see soon. But anyways, so it says the Zohar Kadosh, this is something that weakens the concept of the Torah. Where do we learn this from? From the actual Pasuk. The Pasuk writes, listen to the words. Vayavo Amalek, Amalek arrived. This is going to be the reading of Purim. Vayilachem em Israel birfidim. They fought against the Jewish people in a place called Refidim. What's the source of the word Refidim? Rafu. What's the meaning of Hebrew Rafu? It's weakened. It says, Sherafu yedehem mina Torah. They weakened the aspect of Torah. What does it mean, they weakened the aspect of Torah? They did not support enough Torah learning, so Torah can continue flourishing. So we understand from the Zohar Kadosh that one area that we can weaken or destroy Amalek is by increasing of Torah learning ourselves and supporting Torah. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to go quickly. Ba'avon Hilul Shabbat. The Zohar Kadosh says that when the Jewish people, forget about the Jewish people, when a Jew desecrates the Shabbat, that weakens the essence of the Jewish people. It affects. Number three, Alavon Mishkalot. People not being honest in business. They cheat in business. They do wrong in business. Where do we see this in the Torah? In Perashah Kitetze. The Perashah of tomorrow, Perashat Zachor, the topic before Amalek is lack of honesty in business. Charging for a meter when you give them a yard. Charging for a pound when you give them 12 ounces. Charging for a kilo when you give 900 grams. Exchanging money and the currency is fake. And these are examples. Plus, I'm sure there are many other examples, and it says, what's the connection between honesty in business and Amalek? Look in the parasha tomorrow, Devarim Kitetze. Rashi explains that, and the Ben Ish Chai gives a fascinating derasha on this topic, that because we are not honest in business, that also weakens the essence of the Jewish people and allows Amalek to activate his weapon of mass destruction. Another case, Ba'avon shenisu et Hashem, testing God, putting God against the wall. How do you do that? You do something good, and you say, God, I did something good for you. What are you going to do for me? It's a pasuk in the Torah, Lo tenasu et Hashem. You're not allowed to test God. The only time that you have the permission from the Torah to test God is when it comes to give ma'aser. God says himself, Uhanuni na bezot. Test me in this. Why? Because people have difficulty in letting money go. That's the metziut of life. Doesn't matter who you are, we are humans. The Gemara writes, Adam karov etzel mamono. The person is very close to the money. What does it mean? That because of money, people will do a lot of things. Everything is wonderful until we talk about money. Now you're dealing with money, difficult, different. Then suddenly you allow yourself to do things that may not be allowed, that may not be kosher, and you even justify them. Continues and it says, Irat Shamayim, being a God-fearing Jew, acting properly, dealing with situations properly, dressing properly, speaking properly, all these concepts that we know the way we have learned through the years. And number 7, Hoteu Mahati et Arabim. It says that a person that causes others to sin. What does it mean, causes others to sin? Literally the way it sounds. The way it sounds. Or sometimes can be also said, you prevent someone to do a mitzvah. Somebody wants to do something, whatever it means. Come to a Torah class, come to the minyan, come to the old tefillot in Shabbat, into the minyan, or come to a Torah class, or help a yeshiva, or a synagogue, or a kollel, etc. And then somebody comes and then makes a comment that changes your will to do. So what happens? Suddenly this person turn you off. That's Amalek. It's a pasuk in the Torah. Asher karecha baderech. That turn you off. Continues further and it says that the concept of Amalek, it says as follows. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Am Yisrael to wage a war in every generation of our life. Why? Because as long that we are in Galut, as long as we are in exile, and as long as the Jewish people is suffering, because the Jewish people are suffering in the global aspect of life, the fear of anti-Semitism, the unfortunate terrorist attacks in Israel, all the madness that's going around on the street, in schools, in colleges, in education, in social media, in the economy, in the inflation, in the financial matters, all these things, put them together, and you're going to have a headache as a way of life. So it says behind Palachi, and it says, a person who wants to change whatever drama is going around, change is the name of the antidote against Amalek. And it says it doesn't matter that one person starts. It's one person at the time. If you're going to say, Rabbi, if I have to wait till the entire Jewish people change and do teshuvah and do this and do this and do that, it will never happen. I don't disagree with you. But you can start with yourselves. I can start with myself. You do some, I do some, you do some, he does some, she does some, whoever it does. It says, Rabino Palachi, it doesn't matter. It's all benefit for the Jewish people. It's like the fellow who saved money for many years to purchase a cabin in a cruise ship, in a boat. And he was able to afford the lowest cabin, literally a few inches away from the water. Yeah, in the basement of the basement of the basement, you feel everything. So he was Hacham, At night he was thirsty. He didn't want to get up and go to the mezzanine and go to the lobby to get water or to eat something. What did he do? He made a hole in his cabin. He made a tiny hole. The captain in the control room, so to speak, sees that there is water leak, small water leak, in one of the cabins. He runs, knocks on the door, and it sees that the guy is sitting on the ground with a cup, collecting water from the bottom of the boat. I'm not sure how he drank the water, but the captain says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Captain, what's your problem? This is my ticket. I pay for my cabin." He says, "Still?" He says, "Still what? What's the big deal? I made a tiny hole. Don't get involved in my business." The captain says, "If this water comes into your room, the whole boat will drown with all the citizens." So what does it mean? That one person can destroy and one person can rebuild. And don't think for a minute, this is for Sunday and Monday class, not for today. But don't think for a minute that because we damage, we cannot remedy the situation. It's actually written in the holy books. If you ruin, you can fix. How many times it happens in Shalom Bayit? I'm using Shalom Bayit as an easy example. Husband and wife have a discord, they have an argument, etc. But sooner or later, it will be remedied, it will be fixed. And hopefully it will be better to avoid any of these matters. But let's say that something did happen. The husband, or whoever the first one who apologizes, is the hero. Same thing here. It says behind Balachi. One person at a time. I'll start, you'll start. I'll finish with this because I really am late. But I have to be in Miami in 25 minutes. Thank you. I read it last night concerning earning extra blessings for the week. Thank you so much, Professor. Earning extra blessings for the week. How do you get them? So we already know from the get-go that the Zohar writes that the day of Shabbat blesses the entire week. That's the gift of Shabbat. Shabbat blesses the week. But it says that a person who truly wants to get the full dosage of beracha, an extra percentage of beracha throughout the week, to be careful in two things. Number one, welcoming the Shabbat a few moments before Shabbat starts, and delaying the Shabbat a few moments after Shabbat finishes. So basically the message is don't run late on Friday night and don't escape from the Shabbat on Mosai Shabbat. So if prayers took a few extra minutes, not a big deal. But definitely the welcoming the Shabbat on time is very important. And I know that we are busy and we have to do a lot of things. That's why Hamin gave us guidelines. 2 to 2.5 hours before Shabbat, you're not allowed to engage in work. Meaning to say you must leave your office, you must leave your business, you just be heading home, be ready for Shabbat, and try to expedite whatever you do. So we have the zechut of us welcoming the Shabbat instead of the Shabbat welcomes the person. I apologize for the short class of today, but I do really need to go. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashi Omer, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך. ירבה להן תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר. קדיש.